Frankie Eden. It's good to see you.
It's good to be seen.
Yeah. To quote the powerful Charles Sutton, but no, it is good to see you, mate,
Yeah.
on the first episode of the Food Fight Cast. Something we've been talking about for a long time, and really good to be sitting here in my computer chair talking to you. And what better week to do it than when our champion from Wollongong is stepping on 11 days' notice for a rematch at the lightweight title, which he so deserved when we were both there, present in Perth, live in person. It was a tough pill to swallow that day, but we're getting our champ back in there in a few days' time now at this point. Sunday morning, early for us, 5 a.m, main card in Dubai. But keen to see it go down, and it's just a lot to unpack since this was announced, and in the days recent leading up to it.
Yeah, I mean, even the salt was rubbed in the wound a little bit more when I saw the verdict scorecards come up again this week. I didn't know that verdict had it 3-2 to Volk.
Yeah. So verdict had it in favour of Volk, and I mean, if you think about most public perception, and even really the common thread of scoring is damage.
Yep. And
Volk clearly did more damage, and the UFC actually have him landing somewhere in the vicinity of 160 or 134 it might have been. Now it's coming back to me, significant strikes, whereas Islam was around half that over the course of the fight. So talking about damage round on round, I know Ariel Helwani even wanted to make a case that Volk won round 4 when Islam had his back and Volk was the only one striking him, yelling at the crowd, come on. And it's just, what do you do? I mean, look, I was the first one out of that arena pretty angry. We went back to the hotel, and I remember rewatching the fight, on a little dirty stream, and I can see how it was such a close fight. You could give round 2 either way. There can be a 3-2 case, this and that. I absolutely don't agree with a 4-1, which seems to come up in a lot of people's conversations. But at the end of the day, you've got two guys that are really popular with different fan bases, and there's just going to be a lot of people that back their guy.
Yeah. Hearing him this week and talking about the way that it ended, as opposed to the way he had started the fight, I think is a big takeaway. Like, not giving him respect and all the kind of stuff. Going into it, you can only give someone respect if you're fighting them for the first time. I like the way that it finished. I like the way that he wants to start this like it's round 6, not round 1, as opposed to last time. The things that he's been saying this week, not being banged up from a training camp and things like that, seeing the positive sides to not having a camp, because, you nurse injuries going into fights usually because you've been, 8, 9, 10, 12 weeks of training before it. You're going to be banged up a little bit, and I think that it's good to hear the positive side of him leading into it, that it's a positive and that it's not a negative thing. And
yeah, I think his word was freshness.
Yeah,
that he was saying in his interview with Ari Helwani, how he feels he's got a level of freshness to bring to this. He's not beat up in a 12-week camp. He hasn't taken his smile off his face since he's got the call up.
Yeah.
That is a load off his shoulder to not have to go through war for 12 weeks and be banged up and have a niggly injury here and there to think about.
Yeah, well, I spoke to you about having a conversation with that guy on YouTube about, whether or not this is the right or wrong time for Volk to be doing something like this. I don't think there is a right or wrong time for him, to be honest. The time is when it's available, you take it. He's only turned 35 this week. Both the divisions, lightweight and featherweight, are very top-heavy, stacked divisions that, you can't be jumping around doing super fights like this all the time. The fact that he's going to be getting 2 cracks at it in 1 year it's unheard of, really. So I think the fact that he's recognised the opportunity and that it probably isn't going to happen again for him, if he wants to be staying busy. I mean, unless he takes him out and becomes the lightweight champ as well, it's pretty much now or never. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is getting there in age. He's 35 years old now, but he's as good as he's ever looked. He looks better every fight, every time we see him, and he's been in every featherweight title fight, and what is it, the last 5 years or so? And every lightweight fight, he showed up to weigh in the last few years or a couple of years. So he's always ready to go. I understand he's coming off the couch. He broke his hand last year. He's had elbow surgery recently as well. But there is going to be a level of freshness that he is going to bring. There is a bit of freedom from outcome. But yes, there's just as much for him to lose as there is, I guess, for Islam as well. One thing that's come up with both Islam and Khamzat Chimaev, who's in the co-main event at 185, taking on Kamaru Usman, who's also coming up on short notice, is they're playing this narrative on the other side of the fence that Volk's just taking the fight for money, that Usman's just taking the fight for money. In my opinion, it couldn't be further from the truth. Now, if they're not maximising this chance to get a bump in pay and get taken care of, well, that's just dumb. That's just dumb business, and they will get taken care of, and they're given every indication that they have. But they absolutely want to go for legacy. Usman absolutely wants a second belt. You know, he's just lost to Leon Edwards twice, and you've got Volk wanting a second belt, wanting to stay active. He's talked about it. He wants it. He's flying over there on short notice, knowing that this is his chance. And some people take opportunities. Some people like to wait until everything's perfect. You know. Yeah. He was the first guy to say, like, and I said this when the fight was made. I said this to you. If the shoe was on the other foot and Islam was called up on 12 days notice, he's not jumping in there. He's had a full camp. Yeah. He goes on about accepting a new fighter on short days notice, but on 12 days notice, which is Volk, but he's had a full camp. Him and Khabib would have never done this. Would have never stepped in on 12 days notice. So
the timing of wanting to take the fight and the amount of time, Volk said something in the media day today that kind of stuck with me about, I forget who it was that asked the question, but it was, how many days would it have been before? So would you have taken it on 10? Would you have taken it on 8? Would you have taken it on 6? And he said, I would have taken it on any date. The date's not the issue. The issue was the weight. The weight is going to be the problem, because he said, I'm 180 pounds or 82 kilos, which is 180 pounds. That's a long way from 155. Like he said, if it was featherweight, it wasn't happening, which makes me think 10 pounds difference between happening and not happening. He's going to be getting pretty close. Like this is going to be somewhat of a, he says not a tough cut, and Frank Hickman said it today. I don't know how he just doesn't have tough cuts. Like I don't understand how he can be happy like in going into something that someone says this is going to be a difficult task, and then he says, what are you talking about? This isn't hard. I mean, only he can do something like that. But Magomedov, 13-0. So images of him have been floating around. He's kicking off the Fight Pass prelims on the weekend. It's his debut in the UFC, 13-0. He has that crazy eye injury that, I mean, we'll throw it up here. We'll get some shots of him going. He actually did it in a training camp, which sat him out for 3 years. So he's coming in now, debuting 13-0. It hasn't really seemed like it's slowed down his career too much. But yeah, I mean, another guy with the last name Magomedov, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, look, these guys come from fighting. He's grown up fighting his whole life. You know, he trains in Thailand. He goes over there for long camps. I know that some of the guys that I used to train with at SBG, they've seen him when they're over there as well. But, you know, they're building this card obviously around their local guys, just like they would when they come to Australia, when they have time to prepare for it, unlike Sydney. And they build a proper card like Perth. Like it's his coming out party. He's gonna turn up and try to make a big bang here, and what better place to do it than Dubai against Bruno Silva, who, you know, he's always game. He comes to scrap. He goes forward. He goes forward and he throws. But
he's a vet, man. He's a vet.
Chin out there, as we've seen. Yeah. He took Pereira to deeper waters, and Pereira got him in round 3. But it's a good test. It's a good test for him. If he passes this with flying colours, we know he's a real deal.
Yeah. Another one that I keep my eye on is do you remember Trevor Peake? He had that fight with Chepe Mariscal, the fight of the night. Would have been a couple of months ago. Yeah, he's got he's got another guy that's I'm pretty sure is debuting. But man, I remember to keep an eye on that guy because his last fight was super fun. Trevor Peak. I'll just get his stuff up here.
Yeah. Some of our mates have made light of the early prelims, but there's a few fun fights here.
Yeah, no, there's some really great fights. Let's go.
Nathaniel Wood also on the card. I mean, he's a guy that's kind of zigged and zagged. He's got a good following in England. I always was high on him when he was debuting, and now he's committing to the featherweight weight class as well. So he's not cutting down to bantamweight, not draining himself so much. He's had some last-minute pullouts a few times, injuries, this and that. So let's hope he can string together a win here and go on a streak.
Yeah. So let's have a look at. Let's go to the main card. So I actually was watching Max Holloway's channel today, and he vouched to skip the first two fights of the main card because he couldn't be bothered to talk about it. But Said Nurmagomedov, man, is like that's obviously it's going to be a fun fight. Like, I mean, Wally Alves and Alaskarov. It's hard to tell who was matched up with this and who's had full cans because there've been so many pullouts and chop and changes of the main card. Like, I don't know who's actually coming in, who was supposed to be on this. Alaskarov was supposed to be fighting someone that wasn't Wally Alves, I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for Usman Nurmagomedov. Oh no, that's in Bellator. He fought. Who am I mixing him up with? I guess it must have been Saeed Nurmagomedov then, because Saeed I think was supposed to fight on a card earlier this year, and then they just moved him to the Dubai card. Yeah. So they really tried to stack this main card with a Middle Eastern or Russian Dagestani fighter on every fight. If you look at it, the main card actually has one in every bout. So. It's obviously clearly been made for that reason, you know.
Yep, you're right about that
Wally
too.
Alvarez, bloody hell, Wally Alvarez has been around forever.
Said was supposed to fight in August. He was supposed to fight Kyler Phillips. It got cancelled.
Yeah, and Ikram Alaskarov is the one that they tried to shove Costa into and make him fight when the fight wasn't even official.
That's the one. Yeah.
So they've moved him over here. Magomed Ankalaev, Jesus Christ, it's been a long time since we've seen him.
Yeah, let's talk.
The last fight where he went a split draw with Jan, and no one won the belt. The belt remained vacant at light heavy.
Another verdict scorecard that said Jan won the fight, but that's all right. Which I thought he did as well. Got leading into it, but yeah, let's go Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. He's looked good of late, you know, considering his change in style, not being such a psycho. I think it has actually been pretty good for him.
I really give the credit to John Kavanagh.
100%.
And just staying with him. You know, like Johnny Walker's moved to Ireland. He's got engaged to a girl over there as well. He's got his whole life over there, and he trains every day with John Kavanagh. He's a very calm, methodical, technical coach, and he's in his corner at every fight. He's believed in Johnny since day one. He's always said he's talented, and he's just calmed him down. He got clipped, I think, once or twice since he went over to John, but he is winning. He is on a streak, and he does have the physical attributes and the talent to sort of beat these guys. And that division is so wide open at 205. I mean, it's a bloody vacant title as it is, with Yuri and Alex sort of contesting for it, but outside of Alex and Yuri, like there's Jan who's been around for a long time, but it's pretty open since John Jones has left. There's never been a consistent champion. What do you think the odds are? I'd say Johnny's almost a 3-1 dog.
It's a bit more blown out than that. I keep forgetting how good Ankalaev is, man. It's 380 to 127. And Ankalaev's 18-1. Yeah, man, it's going to be hard to pick against him, you know. Who you got and why you got him? Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker?
I mean, everything I said is true. Johnny's gotten better. He's more technical. He's calmer. You know, he's fighting with a game plan. He's got a good corner. He's listening to his corner. But, you know, Magomed Ankalaev just has a better, well-rounded skill set. He's demonstrated that. He hasn't, been caught other than being dropped by Thiago Santos in one fight, where he went on to win every round anyway and blow that fight out. So the safe bet is Magomed Ankalaev. He took young Blachowicz all the way, and a lot of people think he won. I know Verdict doesn't, but I think the safe money's on Magomed, and outside of getting caught, I just see him winning the rounds. So I'll take Magomed.
Sweet. I'm going to take Johnny just for fun. Yeah, the stuff that you said, man. Kavanagh's like, he's got enough to want to be able to change someone like Johnny Walker. Like, Johnny, he has all the athletic stuff, like you said, right? He's got all the gifts of it. He just needs to settle the fuck down. He's just too crazy. And I think a guy like Kavanagh, he did the same thing for McGregor. I think he's just a natural athlete, man. And I think sometimes all you need is having someone like Kavanagh to come in and settle you down. Connor wasn't always like that. Connor's a natural skilled guy, and sometimes it just takes a bit of a level head and some routine. And like you said, a chick and all this other stuff that he's got going on in his life. It's a tall test against Ankalaev, but yeah, for the sake of this, I'll pick Johnny just for a bit of fun. At 380, I'll take the juicy. So
it's fun. It's funner if you're on Johnny.
So Usman and Khamzat. So we were talking about potential matchups for Khamzat when this was being spoken about who the guy was going to be. I think Chael was on the same wavelength that I was on, because he made a video about Bo Nickel being, potentially being someone that they would choose, and how difficult that would have been to have made for the UFC, considering the type of fighter he is, that this is, and basically what could happen to Khamzat or to Bo's trajectory if they were to be matched up now in their careers. Ultimately, two unranked guys, it's just going to be killing two prospects. So regardless of that being a hell of a fight, and probably is going to happen one day, I don't know if DC's setup of this fight, your minds are going to be blown. I'm not too mind blown by this, to be honest, because I think, call me crazy, dude, but even on 12 days notice, we're talking Kamaru Usman, top 3 pound for pound fighters on earth within the last couple of years. He's not had a non-title fight in the last however many years, which means he hasn't fought 3 rounds. I think we're going to see a different Usman, man. I think Chimaev's going to have his hands full. Same way he has his hands full with Burns.
I mean, you'd have to think so. Burns is the only real ranked fighter that he's come up against, and look what happened there. I mean, a lot of people think Burns won the fight. I gave it to Khamzat 2-1, but barely. He had a lot of trouble in that fight. They went to war, and when he gets into a fight, he does let his hands down a bit. He does go forward with a bit of recklessness, and a guy like Kamaru Usman punishes guys that do that. He did it to Gilbert Burns. He caught him and knocked him out after getting dropped by Gilbert Burns early. He's knocked out, Jorge Masvidal. Usman's been in there with the best of the best, and he's a very, very, very well-rounded fighter who isn't a small welterweight when you really look at him. He's jacked. And what was interesting is images came out this week of Alexander Volkanovski when he fought in Perth at lightweight, and Alexander Volkanovski weighing in and the current shape that he's in.
I saw, yeah.
People saying, he was in, he's in better shape when he was in Perth. Yeah, well, he had a full camp. The shape that isn't really that different. But if you look at Usman, he's just having to not cut weight, and he's always jacked, always lean. He's got those genetics. He's always in shape, and he actually looks, from the images I saw, looks well filled out at 185. I don't think Khamzat's going to have any sort of size advantage in this fight. At the end of the day, they're both welterweights when you really look at the history of how much they fought in the UFC, and there is that fair perception to go the cancelling, the wrestling might cancel each other's wrestling out, and they're going to end up in a bit of a striking war, which could be like the Burns fight. I think I give Usman the edge there, because he's been in 5-round fights before. He's had to get tested. He's had to be defensively strong. He's shown that he can defend. He's had people that have been supposedly better strikers than him in those fights, and he beats them.
Yeah.
He beats them at their own game. He doesn't take as much damage. So I'm actually gonna go with Usman.
Yeah.
Like it's my pick. I just think he's the better fighter, and he's got the experience. This is the first test for Khamzat since Gilbert Burns. He hasn't fought in a long time, and he struggled against Gilbert. Usman didn't struggle that much.
You know what's funny is that you did what I did. I thought that was his last fight too. He's fought since then.
Oh, Kevin Holland.
Yeah, and I was thinking.
I mean, he has.
Yeah.
He has, but he missed weight by 9 pounds and fought Kevin Holland on a day's notice.
For 60 seconds, yeah.
It wasn't much of a fight.
Mm.
I'm not going to factor that in.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything for me. I'll stick with what I said.
I think, honestly, man, the same. Like, you know, Usman at 340, we're talking, like I said, top 3 pound for pound fighters of the last few years. Like, he was before Leon. You know, like he was right. He was number. I know it means doesn't mean anything, but like he's right up there. The toughest competition Chimaev's fought has been Gilbert Burns, and he was tested. He won just like you said, and then had a favourable matchup against Kevin Holland, and at the last minute. So yeah, I think this is going to be it's going to be a coin toss minimum. Like I can't see Khamzat coming in there and running through Usman. So yeah, at 340, 100%, I'm going to be taking Usman as well.
You got it. At 340, you got it. Honestly, you can hedge it if you want. You go 1 unit on Usman and half a sprinkle on Khamzat finish. You might be okay. You just want Usman to win there.
Well, if we're talking juicy value, there's no better segue into the main event of the evening. Volk has gone up. I thought he would have been going down, to be honest, after all the media and stuff that we've been seeing him this week and how he's been looking. But yeah, $3.10 to $1.37. It's kind of like what we said at the start of this, right? Is the way that we need to see Volk coming into this is not round 1. It needs to be round 6, and it needs to be round 6 and round 7 is where he's going to get it done. And I've heard that Islam is walking around the hotel and the resort looking sapped as he looks really, really weathered. Everyone, like I've heard it from a bunch of different podcasts that he's not looking good at all, which is why I thought that number would have changed. I know that doesn't really mean anything, you know, this many days out. And he's looked terrible before and he's come back and been fine. So we've seen fighters that have looked shit. Like Max Holloway is another good example of a guy who's been absolutely sucked on the scale, and he comes out and he's looked better than ever. So I don't really know how much to look into that, but yeah, I mean, I don't really know how much there is to say about this man. It's Volk's at a disadvantage purely because of the time and purely because of the harsh weight cut and what he usually would like to do in a 12-week camp, like what he said. But there's also a lot of positives to take from it, man. Like he's got no bumps and bruises from the camp. He said he's feeling good. Surgery, he was cleared to spar weeks ago, and he has been. So I think I'd want to take the Volk look at this and say, hey, look, there's a lot of positives going into this, and that one of them is it's a win-win. Like you get to go back living your life, and you kind of like this was never supposed to happen. His next fight was supposed to be in January, so I think just take it as an awesome opportunity and give it your all. And I think that's a fucking dangerous person to be fighting, man.
Yeah. Look, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head in that he needs to approach this as it's round 6. And if you look at that fight, the longer it went on, the more he adapted and the more he got reads down pat. The more he started landing strikes and combos to scare Islam into having to shoot without setups. He made one mistake in round 4, which was in the second half of that fight. Got a bit in the moment, started shouting at Islam's corner, and he got taken down. But even in that round, he was fighting and punching Islam in the head while Islam was on his back, and arguably did a lot more damage in that round. And then went on in round 5 to knock him down and get towards a stoppage. Really, like if that goes another round, what's going to happen there? Now, if he picks up where he left off and he takes those reads into the next fight, he takes that confidence, he has a strong game plan in his mind of what he wants to do. He's aware as well and honest with himself of he's had not much of a camp, and maybe his cardio's not at 100%, but it's at 90 or 80%, and I'll take Volk's 80% cardio any day of the week over the whole featherweight roster.
That's a good shout.
Going up in weight, so like his 80% cardio. I mean, when has he ever looked tired in round 5?
Yeah.
When is he? Name one fight where he's looked tired in round 4 or 5.
Yeah. That's actually a good point. I've been hearing that a lot. Is the cardio thing? It's like what is going to happen in a bunch of weeks that's going to affect his cardio right now? Nothing. Maybe if he literally sat on a couch for 12 months straight, then maybe. He's never out of camp. He's never not doing some sort of exercise. Like I think it's going to.
The only caveat to that is that he went through that elbow surgery, so. He normally might have stayed more active out of camp, but he had to go through that. However, I would just say he's been an athlete his whole life. He played rugby. He was running tackles. He was a forward. And he's been fighting for forever, and he goes the distance. He fights the long game. He's got the power to knock people out, but he fights every minute of every round. Doesn't look up at the clock, doesn't play for points, doesn't hold. He's always looking to finish. He's always looking to do damage. He's always looking to advance positions. He's always looking to land a variety of strikes. Those leg kicks, they're beautiful on the inside. So if he can implement his game plan quickly and just take over a little bit at the start, I see him running away with it. I don't see the cardio becoming a problem. The risk is maybe if he just which I don't think is going to happen to him, is if he starts a bit slow and gets taken down a bit too early when they're dry and Islam's got all his energy, and then he has a bad round at the start. It's hard to see what happens there. There's obviously going to be a submission threat whenever we look at it, but I like my champ and I'm not going to pick against him, no way.
No, 100%. And to be honest, man, it's kind of like Usman's not our champ, and look at the the matchup. Like it's a very different case, but when you break down the facts of what it is, it's like Usman at 340 is insane. Volk at 310 at any time ever. If you're going to get the number 1 and number 2 pound for pound guy, and you're going to give it, you're telling me he's 3-1, and he arguably won the last fight or came fucking damn close. And taking from that last fight and moving into this one, like, it's crazy, man. Because from what he said and the way that he's like, I'm not going to respect him anymore, and I'm going to come out there, I'm going to come fast, and I'm going to finish him. I'll take Volk even if I was an Australian, man. That's...
Yeah, Volk's that kind of guy that's going to pick up the phone, get excited, and turn it up a notch, and just be that guy that's fighting with that free mindset, free energy, confident. It just echoes that Mike Bisping, Luke Rockhold rematch. It echoes that.
Yeah.
I remember Mike taking that call, and he immediately started running miles and getting his weight down. It was about 2 weeks out.
It was about the same, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, it was about. I actually think it was 12 days because I remember his interview with Ariel Helwani, and he was talking like it was that whole believe, conceive, achieve, and destiny and all that, and. He really made me believe. He made me believe so much that I put a couple $100 on him at 6-1, and it was a good day for me. Easy night for him as well. And Luke Rockhold had to, go in thinking I've had a full camp. I'm confident on this and that. I've beat him before. It's very, very similar. It's very, very similar. One thing I can guarantee you is Volkanovski is not going to be doubting himself, and he's not going to be asleep.
Yeah.
He's not going to be tired. He's not going to have had a bad weight cut. Can't say. I guarantee the same for Islam, but Islam is going to have Khabib in his corner. He's a tremendous fighter. He's very talented, but to me, this should be a lot closer than the odds suggest. And Volk's the pound for pound. That's it. He's number 1.
Enough said. UFC 294. Let's go.
I'll see you at 5 a.m. in Hawthorne, mate, and we'll get some. Nothing's open at that time, but I'm looking forward to our first food of the Food Fight Cast, which I believe will be some lovely McDonald's.
I did look up a Middle Eastern breakfast that we could have, which we're familiar with it anyway. The shakshuka.
Loving it. Let's get it. Let's get it on. Awesome. Well, it was great chatting to you, Frankie. I mean, hell of a card to look forward to. Our champ's fighting on Sunday. Our champ is taking the belt, bringing it back home to Wollongong, and I'm pumped. This is giving me chills all week. You know, I'm excited and looking forward to sitting there and watching it with you, mate.
This time next week, we're going to be looking back at this video and we're going to be saying, double champ.
Double champ. Damn, that shakshuka was delicious.
Alright, I'll catch you, dude. I'll see you next week.
Alright, I'll see you, mate.
Bye.
Cheers.